Hey everybody. So I just woke up. Didn't even have my coffee yet. Haven't taken my dog out yet. She's still sleeping. The house is still sleeping. But I'm working with someone who's editing my book, and she raised some very, very interesting questions. And you know, she's picking apart some of the stuff that I'm writing as far as my book. And so it's amazing. And she raised this very question, like, she didn't really know what a protein was. She didn't think that protein was a life form. It was like some nutritive element, right? And so I'm like, hold on a second. No, protein is a life form. Because remember I mentioned viruses, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, parasites, and proteins? Well, we don't have them necessarily in order as far as what they started out with. So I looked up protein to give her some background on what it was. And lo and behold, this is the information that I found that completely just is awesome. Okay, I'm going to read this. I hear you, sugar. I'll take you out in a minute. I hear you, sugar. Okay. I should do this really quickly. Yet proteins are life forms. Okay. How life may have first emerged on Earth. Foldable proteins in a high salt environment. Scientists, this is from April 5th, 2013, source Florida State University, summary. Scientists may be a step closer to understanding how life first emerged on Earth billions of years ago. Researchers have produced data supporting the idea that 10 amino acids believed to exist on Earth around 4 billion years ago were capable of forming foldable proteins in a high salt halophile environment. Such proteins would have been capable of providing metabolic activity for the first living organisms to emerge on the planet between 3.5 and 3.9 billion years ago. Okay? So when I'm looking at indefinite life, that means you're not taken back to a freaking protein where you have to then bring in the protozoa, the parasites, the fungi, the bacteria, and the virus to develop and evolve. See, this is why jelly juice is so amazing, is because you don't have to go down to that protein life form, that single-celled, bunch of amino acids coming together to make this protein in a salty environment. We need salt, yes, but you don't have to keep recycling. You know what a baby starts out with? It starts out with a protein. When you guys allow yourself to age and degrade, and you're taking your pills, powders, and supplements and detoxes, and you destroy yourself to where then you have to start over again. Okay? No, energy can't be destroyed, it can't be created. But life can evolve to an advanced type of human or animal, or it can go down to a single freaking protein like 3.9 billion years ago. But we're not starting humanity over again. It's like when you allow yourself to decay and age and die, then you get recycled back into the universe only to hopefully get picked up somewhere and be a single protein again, and then have to go and start all over again. And so the viruses, the bacteria, the protozoa, the fungi, and the parasites all help the human to evolve. And sometimes they have to be an intermediary to help you evolve into this life, and which is why kids get parasites when they're younger, why they may have protozoa or fungi or bacteria or viral infections, because they have weaknesses and they're trying to grow and evolve. But that is the whole point of indefinite life, is to not go back to a single protein. Indefinite life is to stay in this advanced form. It's not to decay, and it's not to start over again. But there are people out there in the energy world that think that it's okay to die and start back as a protein again. Oh, our energy is just going to go float around in the universe, and maybe we'll get picked up by somebody and have to freaking reinvent the wheel again. And that's what goes on every freaking generation. People are reinventing the wheel over and over, like repeatedly. And so indefinite death is where you as a human ages and decays. You don't have enough salt in your diet because you're afraid of the salt and afraid of the jelly juice. And so you go back to that single life form, back to the earth, back into a salty environment. And you hope that somebody brings in the egg and the sperm together to create life. Maybe you get reincarnated, maybe you don't. I don't know what your belief systems are. But why start over again? You think something is better out there? But that's what some people believe because they love reproduction. They think reproduction is so beautiful, which, okay, yeah, it is. But look what people are reproducing on. They're reproducing on bodies that are extremely, extremely imbalanced. And then they pass those genetic traits and those perceptions about life and health down to their kids, who are going to then destroy themselves even further. It's like compound predispositions that will then shorten that specific family genetic line. And that's exactly what goes on. But oh no, people have justified death as like, we'll go on to the next plane, to the next dimension, to the next whatever, and potentially. But I would rather stay here on this earth and make life beautiful on this earth. I got to watch people die around me, and that's not fun. But I'm not completely like overly emotional about it. I just understand death is a part of life. Do I choose to die? No. But death is a part of life because there are cells that have to leave. Hi, sugar. There are people that choose to leave this earth, and you can't do anything about it. There are people that are willing to abuse themselves, and you can't stop them. But you have the ability with the jelly juice, with the high salty content that really isn't salty when you think about it, with the jelly juice going from pink salt to then white salt, we are now getting straight to the source, to the actual energy source, the metabolic activity, without being laden down with all these minerals that you already have imbalances anyways, because you have imbalances in fatty acid, amino acid, prohormones, and minerals. And this is probably why the jelly juice is so smelly when you're using the pink salt, because all those minerals, those bacteria, the lactobacillus that you're growing, is also having to poop out along with the cabbage and kale. And probably why some of you have fell off the protocol, because it was too difficult. You weren't doing that much anyways because your life is so, sugar, lay down. Your life is so busy. But now I'm going to make it easier with the white salt. The white salt is the straight source with no intermediaries. You're going to get your minerals from the cabbage and the kale and the food and the water and the air. And then you are going to have a cleaner smelling ferment. It's going to taste better, and you're going to have straight energy. Okay? And so someone called me a halophile a couple months back, and I looked it up. It's like, no, it's an organism that can live in a high salty environment. But they don't say what kind of organism or where it derived from, because that was not the intention of the definition. Definitions are straight definitions. It doesn't have a spin on it. It doesn't have a type of, description of somebody's perception of that. It is a straight definition. Protein is, was discovered way back when as one of the first foldable life forms, a foldable protein. A bunch of amino acids became a foldable protein. Okay, so that's why I say, some people have overabundance of amino acids, fatty acids, prohormones, and minerals, and you have to release the excess. But that's what life is. But it's all about balance. Viruses are not bad. Bacteria isn't bad. Fungi, protozoa, parasites, as well as proteins. They're all life forms. And it's the building blocks of life. And so indefinite life is where you don't have to go down to that single-celled life form. When you're born as a baby, or when you're conceived, you're a single-cell life form. And then the viruses, the bacteria, the fungi, the protozoa, the parasites, the proteins, all then make the building blocks of you. And so that's why the jelly juice and the salt is so amazing, is because you are now bringing yourself straight back to the beginning of time, 3.9 billion years ago, 3.6 billion years ago, in a body that's only been around for 50 years or 60 years or 40 years, however long, however old you are. You are an extension of your genetic line that goes back centuries, eons. You are not the only end all be all. You're not unique. You're not special. There, people think they're so special. Oh, I'm so special. No, you're not special. I'm not special either. I'm just another life form that wants to freaking live. I don't want to die these crazy deaths that people are experiencing right now. I don't want to go down these roads of destruction that people are going down. Okay? So if I can unlock the key to actual life and where it starts out and where you don't have to always go back to the beginning, you don't have to age and degrade and lose your minerals and lose your nutrients because you have malabsorption and you don't have the systems working correctly. If I can get you to where you can stay living indefinitely and be happy and healthy and work on your talents and teach your kids this so they're not suffering, because if you're suffering right now with your cancer, disease, chronic illnesses and diagnosis and all that stuff, your kids are going to be suffering that in some way, shape, or form, if not sooner than later. And isn't that about what family is to pass on amazing information, not make the same freaking mistakes that you made as well as your parents made? Breaking the chain of destruction? Oh, but you're too busy being anti-vax. You're too busy being like, oh, I'm going to stick my head in the sand and pretend nothing exists except for my little life, which, okay, is great, but you're not really contributing really to a whole as far as keeping humanity alive indefinitely, happy and healthy, where we don't have to have these viruses that take down billions of people. The reason why we have this virus that's taken down billions of people is because we allowed ourselves to get that bad and that weak that a single virus can destroy a single human. And you've just bred that. You've just bred a child that is going to be a sitting duck for a virus. And people don't even know that they are contributing to the destruction of this world because they're not teaching their kids the right way, but they have to even know the right way themselves. And most of you don't even care the right way. You're too busy with whatever the hell you're doing. And I'm saying, hey, you guys, wake the fuck up. Wake up. You don't have to die. You don't have to live this very limited existence and say, okay, I'm going to have my little hurrah. I'm going to be all about Jesus or all about, getting this degree in my 50, 60, 70 years, and that's the only contribution you have to humanity. I think that's a little narrow-minded and very, very short-sighted and very narcissistic when it's all about you and all about your accomplishments. There's a bigger picture that you can still have accomplishments and still help humanity and help your kids survive in this fucked up world that's going to have 6 billion people right now, or millions of people die from a stupid virus that actually should upgrade them, not destroy them. So that's what I fight against. That's what I'm up against. Are those of you that stick your head in the sand, which I understand it's going to be people like that, but still I have come to like being around you. I've come to recognize your name, your face, your activity. And I've been kind of attached to it. And so, the way I speak to you guys, even though it can be very, very bitchy, is because I do care, but caring really doesn't make a huge difference. If I care more than you, then what's the point? But I'm hoping that maybe you might get it, that if I can explain it down to the most infinitesimal. And so my friend that's helping me edit this book, I'm not saying her name until later on down the road, until the book is done, but she raises some very good questions. And I haven't been really working with her. She offered her services to me a couple years ago or a couple months back, and I decided not to, and I was a little paranoid with the whole thing with the pirating stuff. But at some point, you're going to have to trust somebody. I mean, I do have an inner circle, but you got to bring in new blood sometimes to raise questions that may not be raised because of just the comfort or the lack of, comfort and just the stagnancy. And so now I'm kind of bringing in new blood, and they're waking me up to different questions. I'm not saying that Kevin isn't good. Kevin is great, but he has his thing that he's got to write. Kevin has his spin that he has to write, but I have a spin that I have to write too. And where they're both going to be conjoined on the same platform with different takes to it, because he has an audience, I have an audience, and both audience will look at both of our stuff. But, it just depends on what people gravitate to. We all have different people that gravitate towards different ways of speaking and thinking and projecting. And but I have to always bring in somebody else that can give me a different perspective or raise a question that I didn't really glean out. And so I want to let you know that I have somebody in my life right now that's doing that I've trusted. And I'll tell you, trusting people is probably the hardest thing for me at this point, but not anymore. It was a couple of years ago because of all the craziness. But, when I was in development and I didn't want to take other people's, because I had to get my thought process out first. And then how to glean it out and get it on paper and written in a very concise form that flows, that's what I'm getting help with. So I want to let you guys know with the new book that I'm writing, okay? Kevin's going to have his book. It's going to come thereafter. But I'm going to rewrite the book that I have now. It's going to be completely different, like completely different. And it's going to bring in all the ideas about indefinite life, reproduction, single-celled organisms to the start of life, to then why we change the salt, why we're not afraid of tap water, GMO, why it is we have war and poverty and domestic violence and obesity type of thing. Okay, it's going to bring in the bigger picture of why the world is the way it is. And then how Jelly Juice could potentially change the world because you're changing the biochemistry. When you have major messed up biochemistry in body, mind, and spirit, that's why the world is fucked up. Because we keep reproducing on bodies that are not addressing their issues. And so we keep creating children who are becoming these despots and dictators and politicians and people that are on a death trajectory that's causing people to be in the energy healing world to be all about love, 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 or hate, 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 but never a balance between the two, where they're always trying to kill or discriminate. They want to kill parasites. They want to discriminate against certain people because it doesn't fit their profile. That's who we're putting out there in the world when we keep reproducing on bodies that are very imbalanced. And that does not win me a lot of reviews when you have people who love talking about reproduction and love having children over and over and over again. But I'm telling you, there's a reason why our world is so messed up. Because we haven't figured out how to keep life, as far as one human, on this earth indefinitely without having to reproduce and have a child. What if you can live indefinitely without dying and without reproducing and everything's well balanced? What would the life in the world look like and be like? And so, yeah, I'm kind of actually happy that this virus is out there. I really am. I'll tell you why. Because there's a lot of people who really do not want to live. And I have to deal with them. And they attack the shit out of me, but I deflect them. But the virus is Mother Nature's balancing force to wash away those that really don't care about their life because they're too busy being whatever. They're too busy destroying themselves and destroying the environment around them. And so the virus is going to be that balancing force. It's going to wash away those that don't care about living. And so I want to give you guys all the option that if we came from a single protein in a salt environment, and then you have viruses and bacteria and protozoa and fungi and parasites to help that protein develop and evolve, you don't have to go back to that single protein. You can stay evolved and stay living and stay balanced without having to reproduce on bodies that are so messed up, passing along those messed up genetics. Because yeah, your kids are going to repeat the same mistakes you did unless they change the course of their genetics, change the course of their biochemistry. But they're not going to want to do it unless you tell them to, or unless they find someone that speaks to their listening. And they're not going to know how to change their programming unless they're so unhappy with who they are, they have to go and find an outside intermediary to go and interrupt the programming. And they have to want to do it. So unless you actually change your ways, your kids are going to repeat the same mistakes. And that's why we have this virus that's taking down weak-ass people and why people are so afraid. Well, you should be, because you've destroyed yourself and you destroyed your body and you've destroyed your kids. And no one wants to do anything about it. It's just, okay, oh, well, big deal. I have 50 years. That's all I need on this earth. That's all I care about. Drink my alcohol and do a little bit of proselytizing and I'll just destroy myself. And that's the extent of people's lives. Maybe that's not really what God intended. Maybe not. So this virus is going to let you know where you stand in the scheme of life and death. And either you're going to rise up to the challenge and be this protein that is evolved, or you're going to get taken down to be a single protein yet again, like 3.9 freaking billion years ago. And that's the choice I'm giving you guys. Either you take it on and you accept the challenge, or you go back to that single protein and hope that you can evolve this next lifetime. Because that's what, in a lot of ways, reincarnation is, or when you come back again. Because no, you're not going to be going off to a different dimension, really. You're going to come back on this earth in a different form. And you're going to start over again and over again and over again. You're going to keep looping until somebody comes in and breaks the programming. Humans have been looping for centuries and centuries and centuries. That's what the Bible is all about, is death and reproduction. And it's on a continuous basis within people's perspectives on death and reproduction, but it's still the same thing. Science about death and reproduction, pregnancy and maternity and neonatal is all about death and reproduction. Hospice and reproduction and science and Rockefeller, death and reproduction. Just keep looping, keep looping, keep looping, and you adapt for a certain amount of time, and then you just destroy yourself. And you're happy about it because you're on your drugs and your alcohol, and that's all that matters. Not really. I think there's more to life than that. You don't have to go back to a single protein. Okay? So protein started off in a very salty environment. Amino acids coming together, making foldable proteins, to then have the viruses give you the upgrade, the bacteria to support, because it's more life forms that support. You have the fungus that sends the messages. You have the protozoa, which are other life forms that will help support the environment of that life form. The parasites that are there as an intermediary because you are still developing and growing or decaying and dying. That's why kids get ringworm or pinworms. I had pinworms as a kid, didn't know it. I was like, ew, what is this? On my finger when I was a kid. Okay. So parasites are going to be the natural course of growing up, and it's going to be the natural course of decay. And then when you are actually in equilibrium, you won't need the parasites. And there'll probably be some parasites, but you won't know. But there's always going to be there to kind of pick up the slack in case you happen to falter for whatever reason. Okay? But when the body is so well balanced, you're going to release the excess parasites. Do you keep a few? Possibly, but no one has ever really measured how many parasites and at what point will you have 1% versus like 50% of your body full of parasites. But parasites are there for a reason. They're nothing to destroy. They're there to say, okay, thank you for helping me, compost my poop. And I'm going to release, like that tapeworm that lady had in her liver for like 10 years. That tapeworm was helping her liver function. Yeah, they took it out, but now she doesn't have the means to really heal that liver because she doesn't know how to regenerate cells. So that tapeworm was there for a reason. It kept her alive, because if it wasn't there, then she would have been destroyed. But there are life forms that take up residence in your body because it sees that this life form is going to die. But remember, anytime that you have imbalances and other life forms want to keep you alive, but then they replicate, they procreate, they reproduce, and then they take over. And you dying is not necessarily a bad thing to them because it's their life form. So it's all about balance and intention. And so the single protein that was born in a very salty environment has the support of the viruses, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and parasites. And then you now have to keep the balance and not allow yourself to go back to that single life form again. You don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. And that's the point of Jilly Juice, is stop reinventing the wheel. Wow. I'm gonna write more about the roles of fungi a little bit. And I'm not going to great detail, but the roles of fungi, protozoa, parasites, and bacteria and viruses. And then you will see how they all work together. And that's what your body is made up of. A certain percentage of each. And you started off as a single protein with the help of all of those. And viruses evolve people or they devolve people. And you will either be the person that's going to devolve from the virus that's in the environment, or you're going to be the person that's going to evolve. And it's strictly up to you. And if you're afraid of the salt, afraid of the jelly juice, then forget it. If you're not even doing jelly juice and changing the salt from the pink salt to the white salt, then forget it. You don't have what it takes to really be that human that God really wants, because God wants a human that follows God's word, which is basically life. God does not want you to die. He doesn't want you to go back to the single life form again. God wants you to live. Okay? Life wants you to live. God is life. Spirituality is life. Buddha is life. Muhammad is life. Jesus is life. Okay? You have to understand all these different words for the same thing. It's the same thing. It's life. Stop violating the laws of life or the laws of God so you don't get washed away from the floods or from the viruses and pestilence and the plagues. And you stay living on this earth being the awesomest example to your children. Pass along good habits, pass along ideas that they can actually be the best they can be as long as their body, mind, and spirit are well balanced. Not dealing with predispositions or anxiety or depression or, all these things that are diagnosable that causes people to be, in a state of influx. But you want balance. And you want to teach that to people around you. Where you don't discriminate. You don't try to kill. But you balance and you understand how to adapt to all the different environments. You don't resist what's out there, because what you resist will persist. You learn how to adapt to it. Yes, there are people and environments that are very aggressive, and you won't resist them and you won't discriminate. You'll acknowledge from a distance, and you'll take the energy and you'll convert it. That's the extent of my energy as far as my knowledge on energy, is the fact that I'm able to take all different energies and learn from it and convert it and know when to back off and back away or set boundaries. Still take and acknowledge them, but doesn't mean I have to be close to certain people. And that's no different than anything else. I'm not going to go into an area where there's so much radiation because it's so prevalent and I get like all mucusy. I'm not going to walk into a gas chamber, a tear gas chamber, and be like, okay, I'm going to convert that energy. No, because your body's going to let you know if that environment is too aggressive. The mucus runs, the eyes water. That lets you know, okay, that's still too aggressive. So when you're crying all the time, it's like walking into a gas chamber or a tear gas chamber. Your body's letting you know, okay, there's an imbalance somewhere. Maybe you need to step away, step back. Okay, so crying and mucus and lots of poop and diarrhea let you know there's an imbalance somewhere and the body is releasing. And you have to recognize those indicators. And if you don't, and you want to hold on to your poop, you want to hold on to your mucus, you want to hold on to all of your looping in your politics that really doesn't serve you, then you will be destroyed by a very aggressive virus in your environment. And that is God's letting you know that you're not made to be on this earth for a long time. You've had your chance. So either you put up or you shut up. One of the two. All right. Good luck, you guys. Bye.